This is Tony Alonso from Guatemala.
Hi, Tony. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Free Guy es una película estadounidense de comedia de acción. Dirigida por Sean Levy, la película sigue a un cajero que descubre que es un personaje de un videojuego de un mundo abierto, llamado Free City, y que pronto será desconectado. La película está programada para estrenarse el 13 de agosto del 2021 por Walt Disney Studios a través de 20th Century Studios. Aunque el esperado estreno de esta película se haya pospuesto, Sean Levy dice que no puede esperar para que la renombrada fecha de estreno llegue. El actor que galardona esta increíble historia es Ryan Reynolds, quien a sus 44 años de edad ha protagonizado un sinfín de películas que a lo largo del tiempo nos han hecho reír, llorar, enfadarnos, entre otras tantas emociones. Algunos de sus reconocidos estelares son The Proposal, Deadpool y su secuela Deadpool 2 y Linterna Verde. En Free Guy lo vemos actuar al lado de la hermosa actriz Jodie Comer, quien es una actriz británica que ha interpretado papeles destacados en varias series y películas como My Mad Fat Diary, 13, The White Princess y su mejor actuación interpretando a Villanelle en King Im, papel por el cual obtuvo el primer Primetime Emmy de la mejor actriz. Vemos a otros actores jugando diferentes roles dentro de este increíble y entretenido film, como a Taika Waititi como el malvado villano que quiere borrar el ordenador del juego. Este increíble actor ha estado en varios rodajes como Boy, Ragnarok, Avengers Endgame y Jojo Rabbit, donde fueron nominados con el Oscar a la mejor película y ganador del Oscar al mejor guión adaptado. Joe Keery, Camille Kostek, Utkarsh Ambrak y Channing Tatum son otros de los actores que engalanan esta película. Pues aunque hay altas expectativas, sabemos que Walt Disney nunca nos ha defraudado y que estaremos preparados para sumarnos a la aventura de una nueva historia. Sin duda alguna, sabemos que quedaremos satisfechos con esta increíble comedia. Y ahora, para Viva la Mañana y Guatemala, pudimos entrevistar al actor Ryan Reynolds.
I read somewhere that the film Free Guy was a typical Ryan Reynolds humor. And I was wondering, how do you describe classical Ryan Reynolds humor?
Well, I feel like I would sound like a bit of an asshole if I started a sentence that way. I don't know what classic Ryan Reynolds humor is. I certainly don't think Free Guy is like anything I've done before. I mean, I think it certainly acknowledges and plays with the cultural landscape. Maybe that's something I do a bit. But I don't, phrasing it like that, I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
I really love the self-consciousness concept of this bullshit guy whose life suddenly makes sense, and the contrast of Free Guy because even though he has certain freedom, he's still limited to this digital world. How do you feel about this character having to live this contrast constantly?
Well, I empathized with the character, you know. I mean, it's a guy that sort of, you know, has this incredible, I think what's so heartbreaking about him is that he actually has this optimistic worldview despite the fact that every day he's robbed, shot, stabbed, jumped, you know, lit on fire and kicked. You know, he still gets up off the ground every day and thinks that the world is great. Like, don't have a good day, have a great day. You know, that's kind of his motto. And I think there's something really powerful and beautiful about that kind of person going from zero to superhero in a movie, as opposed to somebody with like a kind of like a grizzled sort of hyper masculine kind of cynical worldview, which is you know something that I think is a little bit more boilerplate for you know Hollywood productions this size. You know, so I thought it was pretty cool.
The movie has a lot of connections with other movies we have seen before. Is there any reference to The Truman Show, for example, in this movie? And how do you tell people what Free Guy is about? Because there are a lot of things going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of different sort of themes and motivations at play, but yeah, certainly Truman Show is a reference that I think is cogent and apt for this movie. It's you know, we share the similarities in as much as Truman is a character that is you know used for other people's amusement and kind of an unwilling participant in something that's kind of an experiment. In Free Guy, you have a character that is also being kind of used and consumed for entertainment, although it's not really an experiment, it's just kind of like a freewheeling open world video game. So, you know, but I think some of the themes and the ideas behind it are, you know, a lot about free will, about taking back control and authorship of our lives, and I think that's something that's quite very much on the tips of a lot of people's tongues these days. You know, and I just love the idea that you have a bank teller who is, you know, really routinely humiliated every day. He's a guy who suddenly discovers that he's a background character in a video game. To me, like, I'm in. Once I heard that, I was 100% in, and found Sean Levy, and he thankfully agreed to do the movie, and off we went. So.
Would you rather live blissfully ignoring an uncomfortable truth, or would you rather face an important life matter knowing it's not real?
Well, that's a good question. I think with experience that changes. I think if you asked me in my 20s, I would probably gladly live uncomfortably with a some sort of terrible truth. But as I've gotten older, I'd much rather be uncomfortable and authentic than comfortable and inauthentic. So yeah, I'll take option B now in my 40s.
Compared to other movies, Ryan, how physically demanding was this movie throughout the stunts?
Yeah, I mean, I love stunts. I love physicality in movies. I don't pretend that for a second that I do every single thing myself. I mean, I have to go home, to see my kids without compound fractures in my legs and arms and spine. So but at the same time, I try to do as much as humanly possible. I mean, it's a great privilege to work on movies with guys like Chris O'Hara, who are legends in their field, and Free Guy, I think is a movie that is incredibly physical. I mean, it's a huge spectacle driven action movie. So and we use high definition cameras, so it's not like I can just throw a stunt guy in every time I want. Sometimes it's sometimes I'm actually a big baby about it. I'm like, I really don't want to do the thing that I have to do. There's a motorcycle stunt in the movie where I slide in on a motorcycle, and it has to all be in one shot, and I have to come up to the walking position while still sliding on the bike and get my helmet off and throw it, and there's a line right afterwards where I say to Molotov girl, Jodie Comer's character, did that look cool? Because it really felt cool. And that was a real line. Like, I didn't, that wasn't written. That was just me. Did that really look as cool as it felt? That was the stunt that had me very nervous. But by and large, I enjoy the stunts by and large. So.
If Ryan Reynolds could have an authentic video game command in his life, which one would it be?
What does that mean? Like a command, like a catchphrase, or like an actual hit Apple Alt key, whatever?
Yes, exactly like that. If you could do anything, just hitting a button, what would you like it to be?
Oh my God, boy, that's a good one. If I could do anything, I wish I could just tap dance. I'm doing a musical right now, and I'm trying to learn how to tap dance, and it's really hard. So yeah, if I could have a superpower, it would just be like, boom. Gregory Hines level tap dancing would be nice.
Friends with Mariah Carey, are you? Are you really close? Just kidding. Is there a thin line between reality and virtual reality? And for you, in this time post-pandemic, how do you think the new generation is going to react to this very thin line that you have shown in the movie?
Well, your first question might be more interesting, by the way, because Mariah Carey, I do know, and she's pretty awesome. But I will say that, I think post-pandemic, like coming out, having 3 kids, that there's a sort of, we have, at least in our house, Blake and I are very careful about screen time, and you can see how, kids can just kind of melt into screens. It's a real kind of a scary thing, and that is something of an augmented reality. Lately, I've been experimenting with sort of reverse psychology, where it's like, I'll hand them an iPad with a game on it freely, but then I sort of say no, you can't play tic-tac-toe right now. And they'll start to sort of say no, but I want to play tic-tac-toe. I don't want to go on my iPad. I'm like, okay, fine. You can play the old school wooden tic-tac-toe game, but only for 45 minutes. So that's been lately that's been the gimmick in our house that weirdly has worked. I don't know.
Have you ever had a point in your life in which you felt that you have fallen into a loop-like routine, and how have you escaped it?
Yeah, I mean, I recognize how privileged I am to work in an industry and a job that I love. And I also am lucky to have the perspective to know how rare it is to get to do this job at the level I get to do it. But yeah, I've had moments where I get stuck in ruts and loops, and I get stuck in emotional ones as well, where I have to kind of step outside myself and look at who I am from a different perspective. you know, I started, my first acting job was when I was 15 years old, or 13 years old, actually. So I've been doing this close to 30 years now, and you know, it's, I also went from that, I quit acting for a while and just drove a forklift and, you know, worked in restaurants and those kinds of things. And, you know, I remember I used to work, I did a year of working at Safeway, which is a grocery store in Vancouver, Canada, where I worked midnight to 8 a.m. every night. I did the graveyard shift, and I drove a little kind of pallet thing and a forklift. And I remember feeling then like, wow, this is like lonely. I feel lonely. I feel lonely and kind of stuck. I have no one to talk to at night. I'm up all night. I'm a bad sleeper during the day, so I'm sleeping 2 or 3 hours, you know. And that's a time where I felt a little kind of lost and stuck in place, that's for sure.
Thank you, Ryan. Cheers from Guatemala.
Really appreciate the chat.
Viva la mañana, viva la mañana.